Sarah looked out at the peaks. He wants to sell it as an app. He thinks it's just content. It's not content. It's an ecosystem, Elias said, his voice dropping an octave. And right now, it's under siege. There was a magnetic pull between them, a shared frequency. Elias didn't look at Sarah like she was a viral phenomenon. He looked at her like she was the only person who understood the language of the stone. "Why are you telling me this?" Sarah asked. "Because the water lines are failing," Elias said grimly. "The storm that took Maya, it shifted the granite. The spring is drying up at the source. If we don't find the Dutchman's door, the real one, and stabilize the flow, the diner dies. The town dies, and the song goes silent forever." Chapter 7. The Siege of the Gilded Dust. The legal papers arrived on a Thursday morning, served by a man who looked like he had never spent a day in the sun. "Cessation of operations," Sarah read, her hands shaking. "Zoning violation? Public nuisance?" Marcus Thorne had found a way to weaponize the silent treks. He had filed a series of lawsuits, claiming the diner was an unlicensed religious site, that the canyon treks violated environmental protocols, and that the noise levels, the very silence they protected, were a hazard to local aviation. "It's a squeeze play," Elias said, looking over the documents in the back booth. "He's trying to bankrupt you with legal fees so he can buy the land at auction." "I have the music royalties," Sarah said. "The song is still playing." "It won't be enough," Elias warned. "He's blocked your digital distribution. He's claiming copyright infringement on the echo sound itself. He says Aether Records owns the frequency because they registered the trademark first." The cruelty of it made Sarah's blood boil. They were trying to own the wind. They were trying to put a patent on the soul of the mountain. That night, the first of the sensors arrived. A fleet of industrial trucks, carrying massive drilling rigs, parked just outside the property line. The hum of their generators was a jagged, mechanical saw that sliced through the desert quiet. The hikers in the diner looked distressed. The silence was being murdered by decibels. "We have to go in," Sarah said, looking at Elias. "To the Dutchman's door. If the spring is there, and we can prove it's a protected geological site, we can stop the drilling." "It's dangerous, Sarah," Elias said. "The mountain is unstable, and the new vultures have guards out there now." "I'm wearing the apron, Elias," Sarah said, her voice filled with a strange, ancient authority. "The mountain isn't going to let anything happen to me." They left at midnight, avoiding the main trails. Sarah carried Alice's old guitar, and Elias carried his sensors. As they entered the whispering canyons, the mechanical hum of the rigs began to fade, replaced by a low, rhythmic thrumming. The resonance was reacting to the intrusion. It sounded like a growl. "Do you hear that?" Elias whispered. "It's not a sound," Sarah said, her skin prickling. "It's an emotion. The mountain is angry." Suddenly, the ground beneath them shifted. A rockslide roared down the western ridge, blocking the path back to the diner. They were trapped in the heart of the superstitions, with the red moon rising and the song of the dead growing louder with every step. Chapter 8. The Acoustic Heart. They found the Dutchman's door not through a map, but through the music. As Sarah played a soft, repetitive melody on her guitar, the granite walls seemed to hum in sympathy. A hidden crevice, masked by thick saguaro and shadow, began to vibrate. "There," Elias pointed. "The thermal signature is spiking. There's a massive body of water behind that wall." They squeezed through the narrow opening, their flashlights cutting through a darkness that felt like velvet. Inside was a cathedral of stone, a cavern so vast their lights couldn't find the ceiling. In the center of the cave was a pool of water as clear as glass, bubbling up from a deep, subterranean vent. And around the pool, etched into the walls, were thousands of symbols, not gold, but petroglyphs of musical notes. "Alice was here," Sarah whispered. She saw a small, rusted music box sitting on a natural stone altar. She opened it, and a tiny, tinny melody played, the same melody she had written for Echoes of the Gilded Dust. Alice hadn't just found the song. She had recorded the mountain's history into it. Elias was staring at the water. "Sarah, this isn't just a spring, it's a hydraulic clock." The pressure of the water against the cave walls creates the resonance. If Marcus drills even a mile away, the pressure drops, the cavern collapses, and the entire range loses its structural integrity. "We have to record this," Sarah said. "The truth. Not just the sound, but the science." As Elias began setting up his equipment, a light flashed from the entrance of the cave. "I told you everything was for sale, Sarah." Marcus Thorne stood in the opening, a high-powered flashlight in one hand and a digital tablet in the other. He wasn't wearing a suit now. He was in tactical gear, flanked by 2 security guards. "You found the mother lode." Marcus smiled, his eyes reflecting the blue light of the spring. "This isn't just a meditation app. This is the ultimate VR experience, the heart of the superstitions. We'll charge $500 for a 10-minute session. We don't even need the diner anymore." "You'll kill the mountain, Marcus," Sarah said, her hand reaching for a heavy stone. "Mountains don't die, Sarah. They're just rocks. But money is eternal." Marcus signaled his guards. "Take the guitar. And the girl. We'll say they got lost in the rock slide. It happens all the time in the desert." But Marcus hadn't accounted for the resonance. Sarah didn't fight the guards. She sat down by the water and began to sing. She sang with every ounce of grief for Maya, every bit of love for the land, and every drop of the Hyatt blood in her veins. The cavern reacted. The water in the pool began to swirl, creating a vortex of sound that amplified her voice 1,000-fold. The walls of the cave began to glow with a blinding amber light. The security guards fell to their knees, clutching their ears. Marcus dropped his tablet, the screen shattering against the stone. "What is this?" Marcus screamed. "Stop it! The mountain is talking, Marcus," Sarah said, her voice calm amidst the roar. "And it's telling you to leave." A massive wave of sound, a physical wall of vibration, erupted from the spring, throwing Marcus and his men back toward the entrance. The cavern didn't collapse, but the air became so dense with frequency that no electronic device could function. Marcus fled into the night, his dreams of digital immortality erased by the raw power of the earth. Chapter 9. The Covenant of the Dust. When the sun rose the next morning, the drilling rigs were gone. The sensors had been fried by a massive electromagnetic pulse that the experts could only describe as a freak solar event. But the people of Apache Junction knew better. The lawsuit was dropped. Without the digital data and the sensors, Marcus Thorne had no case. The Thorne frequency became a legend, a ghost story for the tech industry. Sarah and Elias returned to the diner, their clothes torn and their faces smudged with red dust. They stood on the back porch, watching the sun turn the superstitions into a crown of gold. "The water is stable," Elias said, his hand finding Sarah's. "We're not guardians, Elias," Sarah said, leaning her head on his shoulder. "We're just the audience. We're here to make sure the song keeps playing." They turned the land behind the diner into a permanent trust, the Maya Thorne Wilderness Sanctuary. No drones, no drilling, no glass screens. The diner remained. The coffee stayed at $3, and every evening Sarah would stand on the small wooden stage and play her guitar. She didn't play for the world. She played for the truckers, the hikers, and the ghosts who sat in the back booths. She played for the mountains, and the mountains, in their own silent, resonant way, sang back. The gilded dust was no longer a curse. It was a blessing. It was the dust of millions of footsteps, the dust of 1,000 songs, and the dust of a love that refused to be buried by time. And as the neon sign buzzed a steady, reassuring pulse in the dark, Sarah Hyatt knew she had finally found her home. The echo played on a melody in the stone, a whisper in the wind, and a light in the window that would never, ever go out. Chapter 10. The Resonance of Fame. In the months following the solar event that had fried the censors of Aether Records, Mel's Diner became more than a local landmark. It became a global pilgrimage site. The story of the girl in the yellow apron who had sung the mountain into submission spread like wildfire through the digital underground. Millions of people, trapped in the neon-lit cages of Tokyo, London, and New York, felt the vibration of Sarah's song through their headphones and decided they needed to hear it in person. They arrived in droves. The gravel lot was no longer big enough. People parked their electric cars for miles along the highway, walking through the shimmering heat just to sit in a vinyl booth for 20 minutes. They didn't come for the food, though. Leo's grandson was now making the best burgers in Arizona. They came for the feeling. Sarah sat in the back office, looking at the security cameras she had been forced to install. "They're turning it into a zoo, Elias," she whispered. Elias was sitting at the small desk, surrounded by geological charts and water pressure readings. "They're seekers. Look at them." He pointed to a monitor showing a group of young people sitting on the edge of the porch. They weren't taking selfies. They were sitting in absolute silence, their eyes closed, their hands resting on the sun-warmed wood.